There were flying aces, men with 5 or more aerial victories, in many of the nations fighting the war. And one of the greatest of them all, though he didn't survive until its end, was Georges Guynemer, one-time French ace of aces. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to a Great War bio special of who did what in World War I. Today, starring Georges Guynemer. You wouldn't guess from his youth that Guynemer was destined for greatness in any physically demanding activity. He was born Christmas Eve 1894 in Compiègne, France, to Paul Guynemer and Julie, Countess of Saint-Quentin, and was very sickly as a child. His family was quite well off and had a lot of history. One distant ancestor served with Charlemagne. One signed the peace treaty that ended the War of Breton Succession, and one was president of the Tribunal of Mainz during the French Revolution. Young George was delicate and often ill, but though coddled by his mother and sister, was quite outspoken and independent as a young man. At the age of 12, he entered Stanislaus Military College, where he would be described like this. Although he had not much strength, he had agility, cleverness, a quick eye, caution, and a talent for strategy. After earning a degree at 15, he set his sights on the École Polytechnique, being fascinated with machines and the brand new concept of powered flight. During his later years at Stanislaus, he befriended Jean Krebs, whose father directed the Panhard automobile works, but was also big in the aviation world. In 1910, Guynemer secretly made his first flight, which cemented his love for aviation. He was rejected by the Polytechnique, though, as being too frail. And then the war began. But, just like with school, Georges' frailty was a problem. He tried to enlist but was rejected 5 times. He finally managed to be accepted as a student mechanic after persuading the recruiting officer he could at least clean airplanes and do something useful. On January 16, 1915, with some influence from his father, he became a student pilot, and his flying career would begin in an observation plane, a Morane Saunier. He showed himself to be a fearless pilot and was assigned to Escadrille MS-3, who would later be famous as Les Cygnons, the Storks. Flying with their symbol on his planes, he would make his mark. His first victory came July 19th that year. He and his observer pursued a German plane, but it fled. However, another appeared on the horizon. It was a recon plane, and Guynemer and Gilbert, his observer, caught it over Soissons. With pretty much the whole town watching, a 10-minute fight ensued, and after firing 115 rounds and having his rifle jam repeatedly, Gilbert brought down the German 2-seater. Both Guynemer and Gilbert were awarded the military medal, and Guynemer became a sergeant and moved from observation to hunting. He was assigned to a single-seat Nieuport 11. His first victory in the new plane came December 5th, and by his 21st birthday, he had 4. He was awarded the Cross of the Legion of Honor. Tactics were pretty primitive still, and the French Air Service shot down only 15 planes total during the last quarter of 1915. In March 1916, the Storks were transferred to Verdun to help in the fighting there. By then, Second Lieutenant Guynemer had 7 victories. He was wounded in March, though, as a deflected bullet hit his face and 2 bullets went through his left arm, and he went home to recuperate. While there, he had his Nieuport brought to an open field near the family home. His sister Yvonne studied the weather, and if it was favorable, Georges would head off towards the enemy. He did not want to miss the fight. Back in official action by the summer, he had 11 victories and a Nieuport 17 in late July. In September, the Nieuports were replaced by Spad 7s, which were less maneuverable but more rugged than the tiny Nieuports, and were better suited to the tactics employed by Guynemer. His tactics were close-quarter tactics, and he racked up victory after victory. He also made lieutenant by the end of the year and captain in February 1917. On May 25, 1917, Georges Guynemer accomplished perhaps his greatest feat, a quadruple. He was the first pilot to score one. The first 2 planes went down in the morning, within seconds of each other. The second at midday was brought down with a single bullet, and a 4th went down in flames at dusk. This brought his total to 42, and the squadrons to 120. Guynemer was now a huge national hero, and the French people were enthralled by his exploits. By the end of July, he was the first French ace to reach 50 victories. but the end was soon to come. The regular story is that he took off in the morning in a Spad 13 with 2nd Lieutenant Boson Verduras as his wingman to patrol the skies over Langemark. Spotting a German plane, Guynemer dove after it. Boson Verduras saw several other planes above, and by the time he shook them, Guynemer was nowhere to be seen. Boson Verduras returned to base alone. Guynemer never returned. The French War Department announced him missing in action September 25th. The French Air Service Journal reported in October in a statement from another of his flying comrades, Guynemer sighted 5 machines of the Albatros Type D3. Without hesitation, he bore down on them. At that moment, enemy patrolling machines soaring at a great height appeared suddenly and fell upon Guynemer. There were 40 enemy machines in the air at this time, including Baron von Richthofen and his circus division of machines, painted in diagonal blue and white stripes. Guynemer must have been hit. His machine dropped gently towards the earth, and I lost track of it. The machine was not on fire. That's incredibly detailed, and they withheld the name of the comrade. It is also, according to our aviation expert, complete nonsense. 1. All of the planes of the circus bore some red on them. It was their signature color. 2. On September 21st, Yasta 11, the circus, flew against the British, not the French. 3. Yasta 11 probably couldn't even field that many planes at once at that time. 4. Guynemer was last seen attacking a 2-seater, not a bunch of fighters. 5. Willy Coppens, the great Belgian flying ace, talked to Guynemer that day as Guynemer fixed some engine trouble at Les Muirs. Guynemer finished work and took off. He was never seen alive again. There was nobody with him to give such a quote, according to Coppens himself in 1976. The Red Cross reported that Guynemer had been shot in the head. Apparently, a German surgeon and 2 soldiers examined the wreck several miles behind the German lines and made positive identification from commission papers Guynemer had on him. One report says it was from a photograph. That would make sense since, again, flying aces were rock stars and everybody knew what the enemy ace of aces looked like. They couldn't retrieve his body, though, because the Allies began shelling the area with artillery. Guynemer's plane and body were likely destroyed in the barrage. Georges Guynemer was only 22 when he died, and his death was a great shock for the people of France. He is still remembered today in statues and street names, and actually, there was even a Twilight Zone episode in 1960 that was apparently loosely based on Guynemer's disappearance. That episode speculates that the pilot was lost in time, which I am reasonably certain did not happen to Guynemer since his body was identified, but I love the Twilight Zone and any chance to mention it is in fact a good thing. Georges Guynemer was indeed a French national hero, and indeed an almost mythical figure, though his victory record was surpassed, and René Fonck would be the Allied ace of aces. Guynemer would remain an icon for the duration of the war, inspiring the nation with his motto, "Until one has given all, one has given nothing." We'd like to thank Carter Palmer for the research on this episode. If you want to learn more about Billy Bishop, another incredible flying ace, you can click here for our special about him. Do not forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook. See you soon.